Hi, my name is John Toffelmeyer, and this is my analysis of the U.S. presidential election for October 23rd, 2024, the state of the race on October the 23rd. And I'm going to start by going over the latest polls the last 24 hours. And this is what I call making sausage. And it is the more that you do this, you realize that this is it's really imperfect. There's a lot of you're taking basically a lot of it's like taking tainted meat, bunch of tainted meat, putting it together and saying, "Oh, we got something wonderful here." But anyway, let's go over these polls. There's quite a number of them. We'll start out with the state level polls. The first one, Wisconsin, Quinnipiac came out with a poll that has absolutely tied. And this is we've had a series. We've had about five or six recent polls that are absolutely tied. Incredibly close in Wisconsin. Michigan, again, another Quinnipiac poll. This one, Harris is up by 4 points. I believe it was 3 points when you looked at the likely voters at the with multi-candidate. I think that's what this is. I don't really buy this poll yet. I don't think this is the state of the race in Michigan. It's a little bit higher. We'd need to see a number of polls of this that are like this before I think that Harris has that this is going to change my mind of where Michigan is at right now. Florida, this is a Emerson, the Hill Emerson poll. Emerson, pretty good poller. Uh, Trump is up by 8 points in this poll. That's pretty close. I think this is pretty much in line with what I'm thinking is the state of the race in Florida. Texas, again, this is another Emerson poll. 7 point lead in Texas. Again, this is pretty close to what I think reality is. This is pretty much in line with reality. And I think it's also in line. I want to emphasize that one of the things I'm doing is I'm looking at the structure, what I call the structure across states. There's kind of a structure. Some states, the relative position of the 50 states across each state, what you can call a structure of different states. This is pretty much in line with the national race being very close, roughly 50-50. And again, here's a Maryland, and this again Emerson poll. This shows Harris up by 30 points. I think it's about 29 at the likely voter. Uh, you would think, oh, why would you bother taking a poll? And why does that even matter? Actually, a 30-point margin in Maryland is pretty much in line with a roughly tied Harris up by one, Trump up by just, within that, and within the structure of the other states. Actually, this actually reinforces that the national level that the race is pretty close. And now I'm going to turn to the national polls. There's four national polls. One is a Harris X poll that's showing about a 2 point race. I think it's 1 point at the likely voter. Uh, Harris is a pretty good poll. They're reasonably reliable. Rasmussen is showing +3. Rasmussen is definitely tends to weight things on the Republican side. So where Quinnipiac can tend to be on the other side, uh, that's so I don't they certainly don't think that Trump is up by 3 points in the national race, but this is a tick up for Trump. I think they had a 1 point before. Anyway, this is a little bit of a move towards Trump in this poll. But on the other hand, the TIPP poll, and this is traditionally a pretty good poll. They were pretty right on in 2020. They were pretty close to. They were pretty accurate in 2016 in terms of Trump winning the election. This is a tracking poll. It's been kind of going back and forth. It has Harris up by 2. I'm going to expect, I think a couple days ago, Trump was up by 1 or so, 1 or 2 points. So this has just been kind of bobbing and weaving back and forth. So I'm not going to put a lot of stake in that it's that Harris is up by 2 and there's movement towards Harris. This is I think this is just the kind of noise that you get in a poll of this type on a daily basis. And finally, we have economist YouGov having Harris up by 3. YouGov, this poll, this polling organization traditionally has their thumb on the scale on the Democratic side, in just as much as Rasmussen has on the Republican side. So the way that I would take these two polls, Harris up by 3 on YouGov, and Trump up by 3 on the Rasmussen, that tells me, okay, it's about 50-50. And again, this is where where you're making sausage here. So this is the thing you have to remember. This is what you're mashing together. Now I'm going to show you on the next page here what I think the current state of the race is. And this is what I call the polling average world. And in this world, I think that if you average out the polling on Real Clear Politics, and all of these maps I made on the Real Clear Politics site, the data comes from Real Clear Politics. I think Trump is up by 0.2 of a point, almost 50-50. A very, very slight movement in the last 24 hours towards Trump, but real minimal. Not much change in this polling average world. Trump is up by a fairly substantial margin. However, what I'm going to show you is the margins at the state level are really, really tight. So let me just focus on that. Let me focus on the swing states. You can see the other states here. This is the substantially for the Democrats, the dark blue, the dark maroon red, substantial over 8 points for the Republicans. So we're not going to focus on these. We're going to focus on the swing states here. And you can see that in this world, Trump is up 313 to 225, but you have Nevada up by 0.2 of a point, Wisconsin 0.4 of a point, Pennsylvania 1.2 percentage points, the second district of Nebraska 1.5, 1.8 at North Carolina, Georgia 2.2, Arizona 2.6. That means a 1 point swing. 1 point swing towards Harris under this is going to have a substantial impact on the Electoral College. So just because you're seeing 313, 225, okay, Trump is in the lead, but this is a very fragile lead. Trump is, to say that Trump really is going to have a substantial and secure win in the Electoral College under this under a 50-50, I think that he's going to have to increase his margin here. So this is even under this is a tight election. And let me show you what I think now is the knife edge, what I call the knife edge scenario, that if this is if Harris is leading by 1.5 points, this is where I call what I think is the tipping point in this election. This is the point where you're going to be sitting on election night. If Harris is winning the popular vote by 1.5 percentage points, we won't know this until very late in the evening. But if you are seeing these kinds of margins in the states, this is going to tell you we're at a knife edge, and that is if you see her leading Pennsylvania very narrowly, if you see she's leading in Nevada very narrowly, Wisconsin very, very narrowly, this is going to tell you that this is this is going to be a knife edge state. a knife edge election. And the state that I think is the tipping point in this election, at least right now, but it looks like to me the tipping point state is Michigan, and which happens to be my native state, by the way. But it is at a 1.5 percentage point lead nationally. Michigan is absolutely a dead heat. But let's look across at the other states, and if we have that, goodness gracious, this is going to be an intense election night. If Harris is up 1.5 points in the popular vote, that would be Electoral College, Trump 262, Harris 261. Can you imagine this, where we're sitting and wondering at Michigan? This also, and let's look at these other states, because look how close under this scenario I'm calling for these states. That's Michigan, absolute dead heat. North Carolina, Trump would have a 0.1 percentage point. That's almost a dead heat. The Nebraska 2nd District, Harris would be ahead by 0.2 percentage points. Georgia, 0.4 percentage points for Trump. All of those states, those are close enough. Those are 4 states and the 2nd District of Nebraska that would basically, those would be that would be recounts. You'd have recounts in all of those states. So this tells you how close this election could be. This is a really intense time. And if we're at that stage, that's whoever you're for in this election, this is going to be nervous. It's going to be intense. It's going to be an intense night. Arizona is also would be within a point. Nevada and Wisconsin would be a bit over a point in out the swing states. Here, Harris gets 3 swing states, Trump gets 3 swing states, and Michigan would be the deciding state. Finally, I just want to go over, if you saw my video yesterday, Morning Consult poll. This is this big poll, a big panel poll. They have Harris up by about 4.2 points. I don't believe it, but it does tell you this is the state of would be the state of the world if she was up by 4.2. And I bring this up because the last time this was approximately the margin that Biden had over Trump in the national popular vote, but the election was much closer. And what I'm saying here is I think there's the structure. There's been a bit of a change in terms of the relationship of these swing states to the rest of the country. There's been, I think, a bit of a shift towards the Democrats here. And again, I'm assuming there's no bias, overall bias when you average out these polls. So I don't think I'm saying there's no undercounting of Trump. If there is, then all bets are going to be off on that. It could be a very different election night. But that's where I think we are. I think we've got the Trump appears to be in a solid lead in the Electoral College, but it's very fragile. This is a really tight election here. So that's where we are on October the 23rd. Come back again tomorrow with an update, because we're getting a lot of polls now. The race is changing day by day. It's very dynamic. So we will see you soon. Thanks for being here today. Bye.